Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Hopeful Chewbacca back at the Church of Chewbacca, and today we're going to give a Chewie review to each of the ninth inning bosses. I'm going to give my take on who I think you guys should select. And as you guys know, the ninth inning bosses this time around is the 1933 MVP Jimmy Fox, the Signature Series Kenley Jansen, and then the Prime Honus Wagner. That was actually like the big collection. That's the Mike Trout MVP collection this year. Last year was the Honus Wagner collection. It's about the same card that it was last year. Much harder to get than the Trout was, by the way. This year they made the Honus Wagner pretty easy to get, to be honest. He's one of the three options in ninth inning bosses. Kind of nice. So what we're going to do, give them the in-depth true review like we always do, go over some of their real-life statistics, and we're giving them a 1 through 5 Chewie rating like we always do. And it's the Chewie ratings are based off of how viable they are in the game right now compared to other people in their position, as well as what price you're going to have to pay to get them. Obviously, the ninth inning bosses are pretty much free if you just play the game, at least one of them. And I'll factor in a little bit that they're probably going to be about 150K when it's all said and done, if not more. Less users playing the game, so less guys unlocking cards, as well as these are all three of them are definitely end game great cards. Before we do that, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, hit that notification bell so you know I'm uploading more videos, as well as comment and share this video with any of your friends or family that play MLB The Show. I appreciate all of the support, and without you guys, there's no way I would be able to continue to grow this channel. Let's get into it. Honus Wagner. So the first of the three bosses that you could possibly unlock is the 99 overall Prime Honus Wagner. He's a shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They actually misspelled Pittsburgh on his card. It has an H at the back end of it. Pretty common for it to be misspelled. He's right-handed batting, right-handed throwing. He has a secondary positions of first base, second base, third base, and left field. He's diamond hitting, diamond defense. Being that this is a prime card, typically I try to find the prime of the player and go over it. However, Honus Wagner is pretty much good throughout his entire career except for the last couple years. So to be honest with you, I didn't want to tally up like 15 years of his baseball statistics to figure out like an accurate OPS and whatnot, because you got to factor in all the at-bats and stuff. So I'm just going to go over this card as if it's a Signature Series card and go over his entire career before we get into the attributes of the card itself. Honus Wagner batted .328 in his career with an on-base percentage of .391, a slugging of .467, an OPS of .858, an OPS plus of .151. He had 3,420 hits. He had 101 home runs. Now, I will be honest, the home runs in his era of baseball, they didn't really happen that much. The fields were gigantic. If they did get home runs, they got a lot inside the Parkers, not necessarily balls hit over the fence. There was some, but not really until Babe Ruth did guys start hitting the ball over the fence, and he played a little bit after Honus Wagner did. There might have been a little bit of crossover, but not a lot. He had 1,732 RBIs, a WAR of 130.8. He won 8 batting titles. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1936 and was part of the inaugural 5. So the first 5 guys in the Hall of Fame, he was one of them, along with Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, and 2 others that I cannot think of off the top of my head. Obviously, he was one of the best players ever played baseball. I understand he played like a dead ball era, and who knows if he would have survived in today's baseball. I get the guys weren't throwing blazing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. But for his era, he was probably the best player, if not a top 2 player, along with Ty Cobb, in his era of baseball. I mean, he didn't even really wear helmets or anything, and he still had the good old collared shirt when he played. It was still like a gentleman's game. So, one of the best players. As a Pirates fan, it's nice to have a guy like this in your organization as one of the best players, as one of the first 5 guys in the Hall of Fame. Now, let's look at the attributes on the card itself. He has 116 contact versus righty, 125 max contact versus lefty, 89 power versus righty, 90 power versus lefty, 118 vision, 79 discipline, 123 clutch, 99 bunting. I want to mention that just because he is super fast. If you're one of those guys that bunt the ball and are a little bit cheesy when you play, or what people consider cheesy, you know what, you do you. If that's how you enjoy playing the game, do whatever works for you, whatever allows you to have fun with the game. But he is a guy that's definitely can lay down really good bunts. He has 90 fielding, 90 arm strength, 85 arm accuracy, 86 reaction with 95 speed, 98 stealing, and 99 base run aggressiveness. He's really like a right-handed version of Ty Cobb that just was in the 8th inning bosses. So you could really get like a left-handed guy and then a right-handed guy that are pretty much the same. They're about the same speed. They're about the same in the field. I would say Honus Wagner is a little bit better of a fielder. He's kind of like the utility infield guy. Ty Cobb was a utility outfield guy. I will say this Honus Wagner, especially the fact that you can prestige him, is going to be absolutely filthy once you prestige him. He becomes probably a top 5 card in the game, definitely top 10 card, and end game card for sure. Let's look at his quirks real quick. His quirks are hitting machine, bomber, 20/20 vision, soft hands, quick reflexes, cannon, sniper, speedster, thief, pressure cooker, unbreakable, and bunt master. These all make sense based off his attributes. He does have the hitting machine, bomber, and the 20/20 vision, which is nice. The soft hands, which means he will excel at fielding the ball cleanly. Definitely a guy you're going to want to put somewhere in the infield between second base, shortstop, and third base. For me personally, if I get this card, I'll probably put him at shortstop at his primary and move Tatis over to third base. I could also put Wagner at second base or Tatis at second base. I don't know what I'm going to do because Jimmy Fox is in this thing as well, and he can play third base. I have Gary Sheffield at third base right now. I got a problem with too many infielders. Oh, by the way, I got Hornsby as well, who absolutely rakes. So it's a good problem to have, right? You can never have too many guys. You find the guys that you play best with and just play with them. As for this Honus Wagner, like I said, he was essentially what Mike Trout collection is this year, and it was even harder to get last year. It's pretty much the same card, and everyone kind of determined that last year that card was nasty. I think this card will be absolutely filthy this year as well. And you might see a little bit high Chewy ratings compared to what you guys typically see in inning bosses. Well, because we're getting to endgame, and the only cards that can really come out that become useful are cards that are better than all the other cards that came out. Therefore, I'm giving this Honus Wagner 5 Chewies, absolute monster, must-have in your lineup. I think he's going to be at the price range, even when this inning is still going on, and even at over 150,000 stubs. I would, if you can get him around that 150,000 stub mark, I would pick him up. I'd pick him up at 200,000 stubs. I think this is a guy that's a must-have for your lineup. You cannot find a guy that has even batting attributes like he does with this amazing speed and great fielding that can play all over the infield. So you can literally put him wherever. You could have a guy that plays first base that's going to be a shutdown first baseman on the corner, even though he's only 5'11". That's a little bit small for first base, but that's neither here nor there. That has 95 speed. Like, you could literally have an absolute speed demon team, and he could be your first baseman. So it's just one of those things where Honus Wagner's a must-have, in my personal opinion. Kenley Jansen. The second of 3 bosses is the LA Dodgers closer, Kenley Jansen. It's a signature series card. This card last year was absolutely filthy. He was in one of the packs that's kind of like the Ducks on the Pond pack this year in the elite tier, and everybody determined that he was a must-have. He's a switch hitter. You're probably not going to bat much with him as he's a closer or going to be in your bullpen, so I would assume that you have a pinch hitter at this point in the game that can bat for him. He does throw right-handed. He has a 5-pitch repertoire of a cutter, slider, sinker, changeup, and 4-seam fastball. I would say that you work his cutter and slider the most. It's just kind of how you use him as a pitcher. But he also has a sinker that goes the same speed as his cutter and moves in the opposite direction. To be honest with you, other than his changeup being like 87, 88 miles an hour, he's a pain in the ass to hit, to be honest. I have never had like a lot of trouble hitting him because I think I hit a lot of pitchers that throw a cutter well, especially if you're not jamming me and bringing it in on my hands a lot. If you leave it out over the plate, I mash the cutter, which I know not a lot of people do, especially like higher rating, but this Kenley Jansen's definitely going to be a pain in the ass to hit if I'm being honest. Being as a signature series card, we're going to go over his career statistics. His win-loss record is 33-22. His ERA is 2.39. His ERA plus is 161. He has a whip of 0.915. A fielding independent pitching or FIP of 2.29. He has 312 saves. He has 936 strikeouts and only 636 innings pitched. So he's about like 14 Ks per 9. Kind of ridiculous. He has a WAR of 16.3. He's a 3-time All-Star and 2-time Trevor Hoffman National League Reliever of the Year. He's been filthy for his whole career. The last 3 years, he hasn't been as like dominant, but he still has a sub 3.50 ERA, which is definitely good for a closer or relief pitcher. He's had a little bit of arm problems too, I believe. It's just one of those things where he's starting to get up into his 30s, and guys, when they get into their mid-30s, just don't throw as hard. He was an absolute dominant pitcher in his prime, and I think he's still more than serviceable. He still had 11 saves this year. He pitched, I think, at like 22 appearances or 23 appearances, so it's not like he didn't pitch a decent amount for the season. He pitched in about 1/4 of the games, actually more than that, about 1/3 of the games. So definitely a guy that's still making an impact on the Dodgers, and I'm sure you'll see him in the playoffs. As for his attributes, he has 26 stamina, 121 hits per nine, 125 K per nine, which is maxed, 91 base on balls per nine, 85 home run per nine, 125 pitching clutch, 92 control, 99 velocity, 99 break. And honestly, this is going to be one of the best relief pitchers you can get. Let's look at his quirks. His quirks are pressure cooker, stingy, untouchable, control artist, grounded, cheesy, and sinker baller. So he definitely has the sinker baller and the fastball, which counts for the cutter, which just makes him hard to deal with, like I said. Honestly, out of the three bosses, I think this Kenley Jansen is the least favorable in my opinion. Because it's not like where I said Honus Wagner. Like, Honus Wagner becomes an elite infielder because of his speed and his ability to hit the ball not only for contact but for power. He can be your leadoff hitter, your 8-hitter, your 2-hitter, right? This Kenley Jansen, he will be in anybody's bullpen in the game that has him on their team. But he isn't automatically the hands-down most dominant righty in the game, if that makes sense. At least not in my opinion. I think he is a top 3 to top 5, no matter what anybody says, right-handed relief pitcher in the game. I just think there's other guys you can compare him to and make an argument that he's not hands down number 1, where I don't know if you can make an argument that Honus Wagner and the Jimmy Fox aren't the best options at, like, let's say catcher for Jimmy Fox and shortstop, second base, one of those two positions for Honus Wagner. I think you could make an argument against Kenley Jansen, but I still think he's a dominant closing pitcher that's a must-have in your bullpen if you can afford to get him. Once again, if you can get this guy around 200,000 stubs, I'd bite on it right away. I do think they'll drop down to 150 towards the back end of the program, but I don't think they'll go below that, any of these bosses. I'm going to give this Kenley Jansen 5 chewies because, like I said, he's definitely a top 5 right-handed reliever. There's a lot of right-handed relievers out there. However, just be mindful that I personally think he's the worst out of the 3 bosses. I think that this Kenley Jansen is a very, very good card. Let me know in the comments down below if you disagree with me about that analysis, but I do think you could make an argument that there's some other closing pitchers that have just as good attributes as him, such as the Goose Gossage that's in the 50 wins for the event. I understand Gossage is a little bit of a different pitcher, but he does have the same relative attributes as Jansen, and he is also a card that if you just play the game, you get for free. Because people are going to give you free wins in events. Like, you could just sit there. If you play 150 games in events, yeah, that'd be boring. You will eventually get the Goose Gossage. So he is essentially, in my eyes, for free. I do think that this Jansen is dominant, but I do think you can compare him to Gossage. I think you can compare him to a couple other guys like the Mariano Rivera that also have very good attributes that kind of are the same type of pitcher that this Kenley Jansen is. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not dominant. He's definitely 5 chewies. That's why he's getting a 5 chewy rating. Just I think out of the bosses, to me, he's the least favorable. Jimmy Fox. The last of the 3 bosses is a 1933 MVP, 99 overall Jimmy Fox, first baseman for, I know he's like in green and yellow and it's the Oakland Athletics, but he really played for the Philadelphia Athletics and then the Boston Red Sox. He never played for Oakland. Oakland didn't become a team until I believe the late 60s or early 70s. Like Vita Blue played on like the inaugural Oakland Athletics. So he played in Philadelphia and Boston. And this card is just absolutely filthy. He's, like I said, primary first base, can play secondaries of catcher and third base. He's right-handed batting, right-handed throwing, has one of the best swings in the entire game. Diamond hitting, silver defense. For Jimmy Fox, I'm going to go over his MVP season. You're going to hear this season in real life and be like, that's ridiculous. His 1932 season, go look it up. Go on Baseball Reference, look up his 1932 season after you hear the stats of this season, and you'll be like, well then. If they would have given us that card, he might as well be 125 across the board and had 170 vision. I don't even know how he only has 90 vision on this card, to be honest, when we go over these statistics based on his on-base percentage and all this stuff. Let's go over the year from 1933 that Jimmy Fox had. He batted .356 with an on-base percentage of .449. You're talking Barry Bonds numbers right now. He had a slugging of .703, an OPS of 1.153, an OPS plus of 201. He had a total bases, which led the Major League Baseball with a 403. He hit 48 home runs, had 163 RBIs, 204 hits, and he had a WAR of 9.0. The reason they used this season instead of 1932 season is he won the Triple Crown. He had a better season in 1932 but he didn't win the Triple Crown. So they used his Triple Crown season in 1933. That's why they used it, because this was like his most historic season. But he actually had a better year in 1932. Like, he hit more home runs, had a higher batting average, had higher on-base percentage, better slugging, better OPS, all that stuff. But this year was ridiculous. I mean, the dude batted 350. So he batted over 350 and hit 48 home runs. He was Barry Bonds in the 30s. That's stupid numbers. He obviously won the MVP. He was in the All-Star game, which I think they just started having All-Star games in like 32 or 31. So like if you go look at his career statistics, like he isn't in the All-Star games that much because they didn't have All-Star games before that. He's obviously in the Hall of Fame, was inducted in 1951. Now that you heard his ridiculous statistics from 1933, let's look at his attributes, and you guys will know, obviously understand now why his attributes are so good. He has 124 contact versus righty, 125 contact versus lefty, 116 power versus righty, 113 power versus lefty with 90 vision, 113 discipline, 125 clutch. In the field, he has 72 fielding, 75 arm strength, 69 arm accuracy, 66 reaction with 65 speed, 13 stealing, and 13 base running aggressiveness. Now, I'll be honest with you. I had him in the showdown, speaking of his defense, and I put him at third base. And when he fielded a ball at third base, he had a gold shield underneath him. So I don't know if these fielding attributes are accurate or not. I'm just saying he shouldn't have had a gold shield underneath him, but he did at third base. So I don't know if his attributes get bumped up at third base or something, but not sure. Honestly, I play him at catcher. I think he, as a secondary position, you can take some of the defensive downside he has for a dude that, I mean, his hitting attributes look like this. Best guy that can play catcher hitting-wise in the entire game, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, these attributes are just stupid. I think he might be the best hitter in the game. I was waiting for him to come out because he had such a good swing last year. I didn't expect him to load his attributes like this, where he just is ridiculous. Looking at his quirks, he has hitting machine, bomber, 20/20 vision, walker, pressure cooker, and unbreakable. Obviously, the big hitting quirks because he has to. He's just amazing. Pretty much max contact and the power that he does have. With the vision, like I said, his on-base potential was 449. I think his vision probably should have been higher, but I guess he didn't want to make him automatically the hands-down best card in the game when it comes to hitting. But this Jimmy Fox, I think you guys already know. We went for the trifecta here. This is going to be the third boss. It's going to be the third 5 chewies we give out for this inning program. Like I said, these cards are the best cards that have come out. They definitely are ridiculous. He's getting 5 chewies, and I think he is the best right-handed hitter in the game. Mark my words right now, I don't think there's another card that touches this. He has the old school glitchy type of swing that just generates ridiculous power and pop. He has the attributes to go along with it. Good vision. Yeah, his fielding's not that great, but who cares? When you hit like this, just put him at catcher. How much is not having a super good catcher really matter in this game? Like, as long as he's blocking some of the balls and you're not throwing in the dirt all the time, he's going to make all the regular catches. I don't think guys are going to ridiculously steal on him because he still has 75 arm strength. Just make sure you use button accuracy and make sure you hit those greens and dot that up. Shouldn't be a big deal. Guys, we've gone over all 3 of these 9th inning bosses, and as you guys have seen, they all have 5 chewy ratings. So it's really up to you guys who you want. If I had to pick based on what my team needs, I would go with Honus Wagner first, because not that I need an infielder, I just like his flexibility, the fact that he's very fast. Then I like Jimmy Fox next, but I think Jimmy Fox and Honus Wagner are like 1A and 1B. And then Kenley Jansen would be like the last pick for me. But like I said, he's a dominant closing pitcher. If you're struggling in the bullpen, by God, go get Kenley Jansen. I think he's worth every single stub you'll spend on him. All 3 of these guys are. I think your real decision, though, is between Honus Wagner and Jimmy Fox, and pick up Kenley Jansen later if you can. But if you need bullpen help, pick Kenley Jansen and pick up the other 2 guys. It's a hard decision. I'm personally probably going with Honus Wagner first, just because I hit pretty well with Craig Biggio. He's batting about 340 for me. So I'm going to probably run with Craig Biggio, a catcher, until I can pick up the Jimmy Fox, where I'm not really killing with Hornsby. He's had big moments for me, but I would like to replace him at second base. But the rest of my infield hits really well for me. Probably run infield as Sheffield, Wagner, and Tatis, or maybe Tatis at shortstop and Wagner at second base. I'm not sure yet. But I'm definitely getting Jimmy Fox too. I don't know if I'll end up picking up the Kenley Jansen. It depends if I can get him for a decent price. But I'll definitely have Honus Wagner and Jimmy Fox on my team this year. That's a fact. With that being said, that's going to wrap up the Chewy reviews of these 3 ninth inning bosses. I hope it helped you guys come to a decision, and it kind of gave you a little bit of an overview of their career and all that good stuff. I appreciate all the support. Don't forget to comment, like, and share this video. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day and be safe.